How's it going, Farm Life family?
Hi.
We are back again in the greenhouse
Such a beautiful place.
with one of the best greenhouse people we've probably ever had since the Farm Life has been open.
Thank you.
He's really, he came in, right, and you would say, you're not really a greenhouse expert, right?
Not at all.
But you
Pretty
just
minimal experience.
you love plants,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're interested in the plants. You're interested in what's going on here.
Yeah.
You have a scientific mind too, which really
Yeah.
helps in here.
Yeah, it would help.
Right. And you just wanted to connect to the earth, too, right?
This is Justin, everybody.
Yeah, this
Hope
is
you thought
Justin,
I was
everybody.
around.
Sorry, I didn't even introduce him. But he's absolutely amazing. When we started this greenhouse 4 years ago, I don't know, Jody and I were doing this ourselves, and we'd come in and we'd think we'd be all excited, would grow, plants would be growing, and then the next day, everything would be eaten. There'd be, and then we'd just be like,
Oh, and seeds were not germinating.
Yeah.
And plants were not growing more than the size of my thumb.
right.
And
I don't have any hair left because of this greenhouse. Farm
And then
Life
we'd
family.
have these rare things where, like, we had this basil plant that was like 6 feet tall and did great, and our first batch of kale did wonderful.
Yeah. And then, of course, we started getting busier and busier and working with the guests and working on them their transformations and their healings and running trips and doing different things. And we really couldn't, this is a lot of work in here. And so we put it out to the universe. Hey, we need some good greenhouse people. And we've had some really good ones. And here's...
Ryeth and Billa. We've
Yeah,
had
yeah.
some really
Thank you to
really
Riot.
big
Thank you to
helpers.
Billa and all of your contributions
Thank you, guys.
and your knowledge. Yeah.
Made it easier.
Exactly, we made it easier on this guy. And then Justin came in without a lot of greenhouse knowledge, but he just loved plants and wanted to connect. And the one thing I love about Justin is, the troubleshooting, right? Well, might as well get into that right now. There's a couple of different things. Justin just has enough time. He can come in here and look, and he realized, well, slugs are really bad in here, And so what do? We get beer, We get beer, and you can see it. We can see some of the beer cups here. You get the beer cups. Yeah, there's one right here.
This is really gross. Close your eyes.
Fermented
Those
slug.
fermented beer with slugs in them, they just are attracted to the sweet smell of beer.
They love the sweet smell of
and
beer, so they don't eat
leave
your
the
plants.
kale alone.
And Justin researched that. He saw, okay, there's a problem in here. How do we treat it organically? And so he got the beer. Slug's dead.
It was that, and also knowing not to water at night.
There you go.
When you water at night, they can move around a lot easier, and so I just stopped watering at night. We still had a little bit of problem after the beer, but once we stopped watering at night, it really cut it down. So,
Yeah.
just little things.
What I love is that you got
Right.
on the internet and found answers and solutions, because I don't know these things and I'm super busy doing other things.
Right. But it was fun.
And
It was all
that's what
part
we
of the-
need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just fantastic. And there's also a little white butterfly, too, right? That we recognized, and it would lay eggs underneath some of the leaves, and then when they hatched, the little guys would eat through the leaves, right? And
Yep.
so you've been working with that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Carmen helped me out with that one. We took
Thank you,
care of
Carmen.
You guys spent
Yeah, right.
hours just picking,
Yeah.
squashing the eggs,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed like a hellacious amount of time you all spent in here just
Yeah,
crushing
some
larvae.
days, like, it's, there's big problems, and you're here, for 6-7 hours. Some days it's just watering in the morning, and, sometimes watering at night, and, maybe checking on the seed trays, and then, that's it. So, 3 hours a day or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Talk to us about that.
What
Like
do you
a
do
day
daily?
at Farm Life, right? Like just take us through. Generally, you're up 5:30 in the morning, right? We're all pretty much up at 5:30 in the morning.
Up with the sunrise and just water all these guys before the sun comes up and it gets too hot in here, and then I can either do some sun gazing or just kind of enjoy my morning for a little bit, and then a couple hours doing compost, or you have a number of chores around here.
Wait, I'm going to show them the composting system.
Weeding, composting.
Weeding and composting. So the composting, we have 5 composting bins. So those are 3. They're all cooking. And here's another 2. One we're using, on the one on the left we're using, and the one on the right we're building.
And it's a layering system
Yeah.
that we use. You see over there,
Pile.
that's the horse poop pile.
Big pile of horse
Wood
poop,
chips in it.
pile of rock dust. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Sawdust, leaves. All of this is going into the compost. And then this is what's left of the nursery, because this is planting season.
And we get
Yeah.
ground up greens from the farm, and also coconut fiber from the coconuts that we use, and so all that mixture goes into most of these
That's a
bins.
process, because I got to tell my employees, okay, run the chipper. we need 10 bags of greens in the greenhouse and 6 bags of coconut fiber.
So good communication with Brian and Jody.
Yeah,
And the
exactly.
guys.
Like what he needs. Justin says, hey, I need horse poop. Well, we got to go get that. I need greens, so we got to chip that. We got a really nice chipper. It chips the coconut husks. It chips any of the greens here on the farm. Just really good communication.
And at the other end of the composting process, guys are planting, so they'll come to you being, which compost bin do I use today?
Yeah.
Because Justin's the one in charge of that down here.
Right, and the compost, yeah, and then from the restaurant too, right? The scraps from the restaurant, bringing buckets down to the greenhouse to create the layering system for the compost bins, right? That's also one of your responsibilities as well.
Yeah.
And like you said, some days, 3 hours, and then some days could be more. And of course, again, everything's about the heart with Farm of Life, right? And this guy loves to do this. So for him, through 2-3 days in a row, he was like 10-hour days, and I was just like, look, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. And he's like, no, man, I just love to do this, you know? So.
It needed it.
Can we?
Yeah.
There's more to your daily stuff, though, right?
Yes. So, doing the compost and some of the pruning, and then what we're trying to get in a schedule of is at least daily or every other day, getting the greens that are actually growing and getting them up to the kitchen, which apparently,
It's
so
happens. Bizarre to me that that's the hardest part, the most difficult step to ingrain in my volunteers is harvest the lettuce and the herbs and bring them to the kitchen.
Yeah,
we can
harvest
eat
some
it.
of the greens, bring them up, so the guests can grab them. Although sometimes still we do like the guests to connect with the plants, because most people all over the world have absolutely no connection with their plants, grabbing it, picking it, and then eating it, putting it in their mouth. And so if they want to come down here and pick their own, that's fine too. But the greenhouse person does do that.
And it seems like, the more you pick, especially like the kales and herbs and stuff like that, the more you pick, the more they grow. And so just, staying on that, not just watering it. It's not just a daily watering chore and doing.
That's been a beautiful concept that
chores.
you and I have really digested this year, is that the plants have to know that they're needed,
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to pick them and eat them, and when you do that, they will start to give you bigger leaves.
The comfrey, which
The
exploded.
comfrey is a great example. I don't know, for years it just was this tiny plant that wouldn't grow, and once we started picking the leaves, it just started flowering now, all of it.
Right. Anything else? Anything else in the...
Well, weekly, usually there's a planting process, right?
Yeah, about weekly you can go to the market and get greens, stuff like that.
Baby seedlings.
Yeah, baby seedlings to plant, and then I'm trying to get some of the seeds from that Jody has here and get those planted, so we're not having to buy as much stuff off the farm. And I would like to get in a process of actually harvesting some of the seeds from the plants. That's kind of like a above and beyond kind of thing. But that I feel like that's something that would maybe be a good evolution into the greenhouse.
Absolutely. So we're trying to get into a rotation where we're kind of putting seeds into the ground on a weekly basis, because you're harvesting them on a weekly basis too. So there's a big rotation of full-size lettuces that we're eating, and baby plants going into the ground the same week, and then seeds going into trays. Yeah. It just kind of has to happen.
A quick rotation, so it's happening
basis.
over and again. And my wife and I, just no way we could keep up with that. And so, if you're out there, Farm of Life family, if someone, you just heard the day in the life of the greenhouse volunteer here at the Farm of Life. If you're out there and you really love doing this, if you're watching this video and you're like, man, I do that, maybe in my own backyard, or maybe in the community garden that we have in the city, or maybe you live in a rural area and you do that, and you'd love to experience Costa Rica for 3 months or so, we'd love to have you. So if
send
you're,
an email.
Yeah, send an email.
Just go to our website, farmoflife.com, farmoflifecr.com, and on the Contact Us page, you'll find us.
All right. Yeah.
And yeah, for sure. Right now it's August of 2013, but, ad nauseum will always be needing greenhouse volunteers coming in and out of here. And yeah, we are looking for, as Brian said, heart, and just a green thumb. If more experience, obviously, we'd love to have experienced people in here every now and then. But I think if you, I feel like sometimes we get volunteers who just do the daily chores, and then, say what was happening with the dill, they would just let it go and all the dill plants die. But you guys, you and Carmen, just okay, let's get on the internet, let's figure this out. Right. And you did, and now the dill plants are flourishing. So being willing to learn, being willing to spend hours on the internet, really figuring out some of the problems that go on down here.
Everything's kind of unique to Costa Rica's got its own little climate, and it's not the same as the U.S. where a lot of the information is. So it's it's different.
I love too that you're keeping notes. And that I'll probably just take your notes, print them, and add them to the greenhouse manual, because there is sort of that historical log of information that needs to get passed from one volunteer to the next over time. Let's talk about rock dust, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a really exciting project for you this season here in the greenhouse.
Yeah, the rock dust is really cool. It's right over here.
Not much special to it.
It's just
Yeah.
rock.
Basically, the reason why rock dust works so well is because if you think about it, to make any kind of sand or rock or any of that, right? Any material of that nature takes thousands of years. To create a rock takes thousands of years. And in those thousands of years, am I right? It's all the minerals of the earth are being used to create that stone.
They're just compacted.
Right? And so what happens is at a rock quarry, they have a certain kind of machine that creates it into a fine or a dust, right? Here in Costa Rica, they don't have a fine. They don't have like a super dust. They have like a rock sand.
And they don't have like the azomite that's very easy to find in the States, or easier to find.
Right. They have a sand. So they have a sand. So, we asked some rock dust experts. Don Weaver, how you doing? Thank you so much for your information. And he said, the sand is fine, but just use it in your processing bins. So the sand will process into and it'll break down a little more into a fine. And then also when you put it into the beds, right, and you water it, well, the water hits the rock sand, turning into a dust, kind of, right? And then those minerals, the water's a carrier of information. So the water hits the soil and the sand and then drives those nutrients down into the roots so the greens can grow.
All those minerals are just leaching into our greenhouse beds.
Yes.
And then also a lot of this composting soil we're making will go around our fruit trees out on the farm.
Yeah.
So we're also, Don Weaver's goal is to really remineralize the planet with
Right.
rock dust.
Right, and they work really well here, and it's pretty cheap to get basically huge truckloads full brought to your farm. So it's very, very affordable, and you can use it on all the flowers, the trees, the greenhouse, everything, and it seems to... you did the test, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about the test.
I mean, it was nice coming here, and like it was something I just kind of thought, but Brian and Jody are very like receptive to new ideas and stuff like that, and I was thinking about it, and then they had heard about it before, so it was just like, a couple days later we had rock dust here, and so we just did a couple like test areas, and I mean it was an exponential growth with some of the greens. I mean most of them really took in those nutrients well. So yeah, it was a good experiment, and it worked out really good, and they'll probably be here for the years to come, I would think.
Absolutely.
I think it's a permanent addition to our composting process. And
definitely one of the materials that we're going to use.
Cheap and easy, and works
Exactly. So if you're out there and you got a big heart and you want to come down here and you want to help out, you don't necessarily have to be a greenhouse expert. Some experience is, would be great. But if you just love this,
and fitness,
and you're fit, you got some pop. Look at this guy's muscles here, right? Don't worry about mine. But look at this. Look at the right here, chest, biceps. I mean, he's strong. He's strong. And you do, man. You got to lift sacks. I'd say, 50-pound sacks.
Wheelbarrows of horseshit.
Wheelbarrows of stuff up and down hills. You got to be pretty strong. So, be ready. And then you got to be an early morning riser. But if you really love this, and you're looking,
it's a gorgeous greenhouse.
It is very nice.
It's a gorgeous property. It's not like it's a chore to be in here and just enjoy your mornings and be with plants.
It must be really meditative.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Completely.
I usually say
barefoot,
if I had my druthers, I would be the greenhouse volunteer,
Yeah, exactly.
and someone else would sit at the computer.
Yeah, you'd sit,
I mean, one day.
Yeah, exactly. You're barefoot in here. You're really connected to Mother Earth. It's like a form of meditation. You're really present in here. When I've worked in here before, it's just like, whoa, everything kind of quiets out, and you're just here. And so again, if you're looking to maybe travel a little bit, and you're a green thumb and you love working in greenhouses, please send us an email. Love you guys. We'll see you.
See you later.
Bye.